We'll call the joint jurisdiction joint meeting with the Clay County Commissioners to order for Monday, April 6th, 5:30 p.m. Alex, will you call roll?
Pollard. Here. Seaver. Here. Price.
Here.
Holland. Here. Denline. Elway. Here. Cheeseman. Here. Murrow. Mayor Cole.
Here.
I'll call Clay County to order. We'll start with roll call.
Mochler.
Here.
Gilbertson.
Here.
Easy.
Here.
Brady.
Here.
Riddle.
We'll approve agenda.
Move to approve agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Motion approved.
Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda? If so, is there a motion to adopt?
Approval.
Motion approved by Councilor Price, second by Councilor Holland. Any other discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by saying nay. Agenda is adopted. For visitors to be heard, are there any visitors to be heard on anything not on the agenda for the joint jurisdiction? Seeing none, we'll move into the public hearings. We do the first reading of ordinance 1553. This is to amend the joint zoning regulations in reference to rural residential district from ag district, be in the area of Fairview Township. I don't know who wants to go start. Noah?
I can start. So good afternoon. We got approached as a county to rezone the parcel in front of you guys. The map's given to you. Right now, the way the current ordinance is written, there's only 3 building eligibilities per quarter, and it doesn't specify the districts. So with these already being rural residential, it takes away those building eligibilities. So what this would be doing would be adding additional building eligibility in a district that's already right next to another rural residential. So, other than that, I mean, it's a pretty straightforward, a little bit closer shot. Straightforward. These 4 are already rural residential, and in regards to the comprehensive plan, you know, it's falling right in line with what's already there.
All right. Jose, do you have any input on that?
I guess I'll just add to what Noah said, that the City and County Planning Commission did meet to discuss this. They met on March 9th. At that meeting, there were a few neighboring property owners that attended the meeting. Most of their comments or concerns were related to future land uses, impact to existing wetlands, and impacts of the rezoning to taxes. After all of this was discussed and talked over, the Planning Commission did vote, and the city's Planning Commission anyways voted 6-0 to recommend approval of the zoning request. The county's Planning Commission also voted unanimously to recommend to the County Board of Commissioners to vote approval of this ordinance amendment.
Thank you, Jose. Are there any visitors to be heard on this topic? Seeing none. County and city have any discussion? Any motions by either board?
I move to adopt the zoning for this.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Pose same sign. Motion passes.
I do have one question. Does this require a second reading on this?
This does require second reading, so you would be actually moving it to the second reading.
Who can we do that?
I'll rescind that motion then. And I will make a motion that we move this to a second reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion passes.
Move to advance to a second reading.
Motion to advance, second reading by Council Price, there a second? Second by Councilor Hellwig. Any other discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed by saying nay. Motion is approved. Thank you. Next item for joint jurisdiction is the consideration for the 2025 Joint Jurisdiction Comprehensive Plan. Would this be 2026 now? comprehensive plan, or still 2025?
I mean,
2025, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
we started it then.
For the comprehensive plan, go ahead, Jose, or, sorry, Noah.
Noah?
Yep, so we went through, from the last meeting, went ahead and amended those, changes that was requested. The packet in front of the county commission, has it redlined, and then the green of what we discussed for the boundary lines was also added into section B. So, obviously, the maps were left alone, so those are unchanged.
Thank you, Noah. Jose, do you have anything to add out of that?
No, I guess the only thing that I would add is that both bodies are, take public comments if there's any. Other than that, staff does recommend approval or adoption of the comprehensive plan as amended.
Thank you, Jose. Are there any visitors to be heard for comments? Seeing none, give to the governing bodies for any discussion. Counselor Holland?
With our package, the maps were included, these maps that should be with it, what we see here.
Yeah, the maps were not changed from the previous meeting, so those should be, yep.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? This is just we don't require a second reading for this, correct?
No, this is just a resolution, you're just adopting the,
Motion to approve, do I have a second? Second by Counselor Toller. Only other question, I do say it's more of a reference to the annexation, and it's something that would not be in here, but I'd like to see in the ordinances a require where we'd have to at least meet annually to revisit those boundaries. But that'd be something for the ordinance, not the plan.
correct, yep.
Yeah, okay. There's a motion on the table to approve by the city. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying nay. City approves. County?
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve comprehensive plan as amended.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, and resolutions are by roll call, aren't they?
I'm sorry?
Resolutions we do by roll call, right?
We just do second reading of ordinances, so.
Oh, so this is just moving to the second? Sorry.
There's no
No, there's no way. This
There's
is
no
just
second, but on a resolution, we have to do roll call, right?
We don't have to, but you can.
Okay, so we don't have to? Okay. That's fine if we don't have to. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Nothing else on the agenda, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn for the city.
I've got one question before we move. The second reading on the rezone, will we be able to do that at your next meeting?
Oh, thank you. The 20th, is that the one? That'd be,
Yeah.
4/20th would be our next meeting. Does that give enough
that
time
enough?
for publication for you guys?
You only have to publish once,
Okay.
because then the next meeting would be decided here.
I don't have any opposition to that. If you guys don't,
No, we do that again at 5:30? That work?
that'd work. Yeah. Entertain motion to adjourn? Motion by Councilor Mers, is there a second? Second by Councilor Holland. All those in favor to adjourn, signify by saying aye. Opposed by saying nay. City's adjourned.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
We'll reconvene at 6 o'clock for the regularly scheduled meeting.
Actually, that's the fastest.
The Vermillion City Council meeting scheduled for Monday, April 6, 2026 at 6 PM will come to order. Alex, will you call roll?
Toller. Lieber. Price. Holland. Genowine. Elwig. Cheeseman. Murrah. Mayor Cole.
Here, will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone had a chance to review the minutes for the March 16, 2026 special meeting, the March 16, 2026 joint meeting with Clay County, and the March 16, 2026 regular meeting. If so, are there any changes to the minutes, or is there a motion to approve? Motion to approve the minutes by Counselor Cheeseman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Lieber. Any other discussion on the minutes? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed by saying nay. Motion carried. There's some authority there. All right. Adoption of the agenda. I know. So everyone had a chance to review the agenda? If so, are there any changes to the agenda or motion to adopt?
Move approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda by Counselor Price. Is there a second? Second by Counselor Holland. Any other discussion? All those in favor to approve the agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by saying nay. Motion carries.
Yeah, I know, right now.
Okay. Honestly, we're going to need another gavel here by the end of the day. All right. Visitors to be heard. Are there any visitors to be heard today? Visitors to be heard addressing the council, please come to the podium, use the microphone, and raise your hand before coming to the podium and state your name and address. For items not on the agenda, members of the public may speak under visitors to be heard. Remarks are limited to 5 minutes and no decision will be made at this time. For any visitors to be heard on agenda items, public testimony will be taken at the beginning of each agenda item after the subject has been explained by staff. And any citizen who wishes may speak for one time for 5 minutes on each agenda item. Public testimony will then be closed in the to the governing body for possible action. At that point, only city council members and staff may discuss the current item unless a council member moves to allow another person to speak and unanimous consent of the council. Questions from the council, however, may be directed to a staff or member of the public through the presiding officer at any time. We do have several proclamations that we'll go over, but before we read those off, are there any visitors to be heard on any item not on the agenda? Councilor Helwig.
Thank you so much. I just want to take a moment and acknowledge the passing of Karen Munster, who passed away on Friday. She's a former member of the Vermillion City Council, as well as a former member of the South Dakota Senate, where she also served as the minority whip for the Democratic Party. So I just want to take just a moment to acknowledge that. She was a strong community member, an important part of this community, and a force to be reckoned with. So thank you for that time.
Thank you, Councilor Helwig. Are there any other visitors to be heard? Seeing none, we'll move on to the first proclamation. We have a team member from the Child Protection Team to read a proclamation for Child Abuse Awareness Month.
Bear with me, I've never had to be before you guys. My name is Caitlin Domer, and I am the president of our Child Protection Team for Clay County. I'm also a deputy state's attorney for Clay County. I handle all of our abuse and neglect cases, which has helped me immensely in the role stepping in as president for this year. As I'm sure you're all aware, we do a proclamation every April for Child Abuse Awareness Month. Every year we bring this proclamation to you with the hopes that it brings awareness to not only the increase that we've had in child abuse in our county, but across the state. It's been immensely increased for reasons of which unfortunately we don't know. But that being said, this proclamation means a lot to the team, which is why we brought it for today for you guys. John, thank you for helping me out here since I wasn't really sure what I was supposed to do. You were really helpful, so thank you. The proclamation being recognizing April 2026 as Child Abuse Awareness Month, whereas in February of 2026 alone, CASA, which stands for the Court Appointed Special Advocates, assisted 29 children in our regional area who were victims of abuse or neglect, and whereas child abuse and neglect is a serious problem affecting every segment of our community, and finding solutions requires input and action from everyone. And whereas our children are our most valuable resources and will shape the future of the state of South Dakota and the United States. And whereas child abuse can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that have lasting consequences for victims of abuse. And whereas protective factors are conditions that reduce or eliminate risk and promote the social, emotional, and developmental well-being of the children, and whereas effective child abuse prevention activities succeed because of the partnerships created between child welfare professionals, education, health, community, and faith-based organizations, businesses, law enforcement agencies, and families. And whereas communities must make every effort to promote programs and activities that create strong and thriving children and families. And whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And whereas prevention remains the best defense for our children and families. And whereas the downtown Main Street tree accent lights will be blue for 1 week from April 6, 2026 through April 12, 2026 to promote awareness and the importance of child abuse prevention. Now therefore be it resolved, we the members of the Clay County Child Protection Team do hereby proclaim April 2026 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in the city of Vermillion, and urge all citizens to recognize this month by dedicating ourselves to the task of improving the quality of life for all the children and their families. Dated at Vermillion, South Dakota, this 6th day of April 2026. Signed on behalf of the Clay County Child Protection Team by the President and myself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next proclamation, we're going to recognize Cadence Otto as mayor for the day. For some of you have realized that there is a new member up on the council podium here. Cadence Otto was selected as our mayor for the day for Vermillion, so we are going to recognize her on that. Whereas the city of Vermillion established the Youth Mayor for a Day program to encourage community engagement among Vermillion youth and to educate and inspire future community leadership. And whereas the Youth Mayor for a Day program provides an opportunity for students to witness firsthand the work, decision-making, and collaboration of municipal government with local and state leadership. And whereas the Vermillion City Council worked with Vermillion Middle School to develop a program that would expand students' knowledge of local government as part of their 8th grade studies. And whereas the Vermillion Middle School students were given an assignment of writing an essay describing what they would do if they were the Youth Vermillion Mayor for the day. And whereas Vermillion Middle School teachers selected 5 essays which were completed, best assigned, and whereas a committee of 4 city council members received the 5 unidentified essays and selected the essay written by Cadence Otto on addressing substance abuse issues among Vermillion youth, and as the winning essay for 2026. Whereas Cadence Otto had the opportunity to meet with Governor Roden, District 17 state legislators Sidney Davis and Chris Casson, Sioux Falls Mayor Tenhaken, Rapid City Mayor Jason Solomon, and other community and state leadership during her experience as youth mayor for a day. And now, therefore, we, the governing body, the city of Vermillion, South Dakota, for and on behalf of the citizens, do hereby recognize Cadence Otto as the first youth mayor for the day from Vermillion Middle School, dated this day in Vermillion, South Dakota, 6th day of April, 2026. Congratulations. Dad, you want to take a picture real quick? Why don't you come on up, we'll do a picture real quick before we get to the other proclamations. So we'll have you stand up and we'll all stand with you, okay?
We're going to do that at the back.
Come on over here. Here, come over here. Yes. Oh, I got your mic.
Here you go. Yep.
All right, I got some.
You want to hold the gavel that she's been before she... All right. If it's okay with the council, we do have a proclamation recognizing Blair Merkwan for the South Dakota wrestling champion. However, parents did message me they're running behind until about 6:30. If you're okay with reading that at the end of the meeting, does that work? Okay. So we're going to have our mayor for the day. Madam Mayor, if you would read the proclamation recognizing Cornerstone's Career Learning Center.
Recognizing April 6th as Cornerstone's Career Learning Center 40th anniversary. Whereas Cornerstone's Career Learning Center was founded in Huron, South Dakota, and has for 40 years grown into a leading adult education and workforce development organization, providing essential learning opportunities to residents in Aberdeen, Huron, Mitchell, Vermillion, and Yankton, South Dakota, as well as surrounding rural communities throughout the region. And whereas Cornerstone's Career Learning Center empowers adults to achieve career readiness by offering high-quality adult education, including high school equivalency preparation, English language instruction, skill-building programs, and personalized job development services that prepare individuals for meaningful and sustainable employment. And whereas for 4 decades, Cornerstones has helped countless individuals overcome barriers, gain confidence, and successfully transition into the workforce, strengthening both families and the local economy. And whereas the organization partners with businesses, community leaders, government agencies, and educational institutions to create pathways to employment, foster professional growth, and cultivate a thriving, skilled workforce in South Dakota. And whereas the City of Vermillion recognizes the importance of organizations that promote education and career development and acknowledges the profound positive impact Cornerstone's Career Learning Center has made over its 40 years of service. And whereas Cornerstone's Career Learning Center plays a critical statewide leadership role by coordinating and providing professional development for adult education instructors across South Dakota, strengthening the capacity of fewer than 100 educators who collectively serve thousands of adult learners each year. Now therefore, we, the governing body of the City of Vermillion, South Dakota, do hereby proclaim April 6, 2026 as Cornerstone's Career Learning Center 40th Anniversary Day. In the City of Vermillion, during this week, we encourage all citizens to honor and celebrate this remarkable organization for its dedication, service, and transformative contributions to the lives of adults and the strength of our workforce, stated at Vermillion, South Dakota, this 6th day of April 2026.
Thank you. I'm just going to have her read the proclamations from here on out. She's better than I do. All right. I don't want to know. We don't have any public hearings today, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have the invoices payable, fuel quotes, request to close Rose Street from Coyote Village north to the Dakota Dome on August 21st, 2026 for USD Move-In Day. Request to close North Plum Street East Cherry Street in South Dakota Highway 50 on Friday, August 21st for USD's Move-In Day event. A request to close Main Street from South Norbeck to High Street, and then High Street from West Main to West National Street on October 3rd from 7:30 a.m. till 12 p.m. for the USD Dakota Days Parade. We also have a final plot of Track 1 for Cypress Rail Edition, a furniture zone lease for Lot A for Cafe Brulee at 24 West Main Street, declaration of surplus vehicles and equipment, and a resolution to purchase a body for the chassis of a street department tandem dump truck. That's all I have on the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda or any items wish to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move that we approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda by Councilor Holland, a second by Councilor Hellig. Any other discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Price. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying nay. Motion carries. Next item, we are going on to old business. We do have a second reading for ordinance 1552. This is to amend section 3203 for terms of members of the Planning and Zoning Commission appointments.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this item was very well covered at your last meeting, and also some of the media coverage with respect to what was talked about at the last meeting. In essence, what we're looking at is that there are 9 members of our City Planning and Zoning Commission, and as you can see in the yellow boxes indicated in the chart, 4 of those terms come due in 2027. The other terms come due in 2030. And we had a discussion with the Planning and Zoning Commission. They preferred to keep the 5-year terms that we have now, but they were open to different ideas in terms of changing that rotation, so we didn't have 4 come up at one point in time and 5 come up in another year. And so we worked through some different rotations, and ultimately what we'd like to get to are what would be shown in the green boxes, that you would have 3 terms come up in 1 year, 3 terms come up in the next year, 3 5-year terms come up that 3rd year. You'd go 2 years without any terms expiring, and then you would start that cycle over again, just to kind of spread that out. And so, excuse me, the ordinance before you moves us to doing that. This will take several years to create, to put into place, because we don't want to shorten the terms of any of our current Planning and Zoning Commission members, but we want to be able to move to this. So what you see before you in the chart is that next year in 2027, you would have 4 appointments up. 3 of those members would be appointed to a 4-year term, 1 member would be appointed to a 5-year term. And then when you have the next group that comes up in 2030, you have 5 members at that point in time. You would appoint 2 members to a 2-year term and 3 members to a 3-year term, which then gets you in that cycle of having 3 5-year terms, a third of the Planning and Zoning Commission come up every year for 3 years, and then 2 years without any appointments. That's what the ordinance before you does. There have been no changes since the first reading at your last meeting. We would recommend approval of the ordinance. A roll call vote is required for the approval of any second reading of an ordinance.
Thank you, John. Is there any visitors to be heard on this? Seeing none, move to council for any discussion. Discussion by council. Is there a motion to approve? Motion approved by Councilor Price. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Murrah. Any other discussion on this? We do have a roll call vote. Alex, will you take roll?
Toller.
Yes.
Lieber.
Yes.
Price.
Yes.
Holland.
Yes.
Genowine. Helwig.
Yes.
Cheeseman.
Yes.
Murrah. Miracle.
Yes. Vote is unanimous. Motion carried. Next item we have is new business, a change order number 2 for Tom Street Lift Station. Shane?
Thank you. The Tom Street Lift Station Replacement Project was awarded to H&W Contracting in the amount of $1,553,066.45 back in May of 2023. That project had a substantial completion date of June 1st, 2024. We did not achieve substantial completion until January 21st of 2026. Liquidated damages were tracked on that project at a rate of $1,350 per day. In total, the project's seen 602 days of LDs, which equals $812,700. Change Order 1 was approved by staff back in September of 2025. Change Order 1 included a couple small items that increased the project cost by $3,715.76. This was not brought to council due to its size. Staff just approved that on our own. At council's direction and with the assistance of Banner Associates, staff began negotiating the liquidated damages with H&W back in November of 2025, as it was unlikely that the city would collect the full LD amount. On February 17th, 2026, H&W agreed to settle the liquidated damages in the amount of $299,700. Following substantial completion, Change Order 2 was drafted. It includes 3 items that combine for a total deduction of $38,325.52. Change Orders 1 and 2 combined for a total construction cost of $1,518,456.69. Due to the funding on the project, all change orders are subject to review by Danner, or Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources. They were sent the change order 2 back on March 24th of 2026. They did, originally, we had included the negotiated liquidated damages amount as part of the change order. However, that was removed at Danner's request. So now they have liquidated damages shown as a note on the pay application. More detailed breakdown of the change order 2 items can be found in the attached document. To date, the city has paid $742,689.73 to H&W. Pay App 4, which was listed as the first item on the invoices payable of the consent agenda item A, there was a note that that would only be paid if this item is approved. Pay App 4 is in the amount of $330,987.77. It's anticipated that the final acceptance and the final pay application will be on the April 20th agenda. Administration recommends approval of change order number 2 for a deduct of $38,987.77. I'm sorry, I just jumped, wrong number there. $38,325.52, as well as the acceptance of the liquidated damages in the amount of $299,700, bringing a total construction cost to $1,218,756.69. A motion could include language or wording as council moves to approve change order number 2, as well as settle liquidated damages in the amount of $299,700.
Thank you, Shane. Is there any visitors to be heard on this? Seeing none, council for any discussion on this? Just to clarify, Shane, so we're under budget.
Yes.
In total, about 38 is what?
Yes, so it ended up, so change order 2 ended up being about 38,000, a little over that for, yep.
Any other discussion by council? Any motions?
Well discussed, so I think it's, yes, the count move to approve the change order 2, as well as the liquidated damages in the amount of $299,700.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Holland, second by Councilor Price. Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by saying nay. Motion carries. Next item we have is the Tom Street Lift Station Engineering Agreement Amendment Number 3.
Thank you. Back in February of 2022, an engineering agreement was entered between the City of Vermillion and Banner Associates for the design, bidding, construction administration, and the construction observation of the Tom Street Lift Station. Total cost of that agreement was $112,200. On May of 2023, the Tom Street Lift Station project was awarded to H&W with the project substantial completion date set for June 1st of 2024. That was not met until January 21st, 2026, over 600 days past the original date. On March 3rd, 2025, council approved amendment number 1 to the engineering contract. That amendment included design modifications to accommodate the Jack Powell addition, as well as additional work due to delays in construction. That amendment increased the contract with Banner by $26,762.30, bringing the total contract to $138,962.30. On October 6th of 2025, council approved amendment number 2 in the amount of $44,360. This amendment was due to delays in construction. This amendment increased the total contract to $183,322.30. At the time that amendment was approved, the lift station contractor had scheduled substantial completion of October 29th of 2025. Banner Associates has prepared amendment number 3, which covers work that has taken place since amendment number 2. Amendment number 3 has 4 modifications to the original contract. Those 4 modifications are all due to project delays in construction by the lift station contractor. These 4 modifications combine for a total increase of $52,622, bringing the total cost of the engineering contract to $235,944.30. More detailed breakdown of the additional services performed can be found in the attached amendment number 3. To date, the city has paid $183,223.55 for the engineering on the project. City staff, with the assistance from Banner, have negotiated an liquidated damages payout/credit, not sure how you want to term that, in the amount of $299,700 that was approved on the previous agenda item. This amount is sufficient to cover the additional engineering costs on the project. The 2026 budget does not have any funds in place to cover the costs of this project, as the project was scheduled to be completed in '24 and then again in '25. A revision will need to be made to the 2026 budget to cover these costs. With that, administration recommends approval of amendment number 3 to the engineering agreement with Banner Associates for the Tom Street Lift Station replacement in the amount of $52,622, bringing the total cost to $235,944.30. There is a representative, Tanya Miller, with Banner Associates here, if you guys have any questions that I cannot answer.
Before getting to that, is there any visitors to be heard on this? Seeing none, council for any discussion? Councilor Toller?
Shane, this has been quite a process here, getting this thing completed. How has the work been since it's been completed? Like, any problems or issues? And how long was it completed?
Yep, so it got, the substantial completion was back in January 21st. We've been running through, you kind of have punch list items on all of these kind of projects, so we've been running through some of that final stuff. But the lift itself has been operating as intended. We have not had any issues, nothing large. You got a little bit of control things, something, the alarm's not saying what it's supposed to say or something like that. Minor stuff that we're still working through. I think there's 3 items right now, or 2 or 3 items that are still kind of hanging out there that we're waiting to get finished. A couple of them are super minor. One of them is, it's just back ordered. It's a part that's back ordered, so we're waiting on that to get showed up before it shows up, before we can have it installed. Other than that, the lift has been operational exactly what we wanted and what we needed.
Thank you, Councilor Toller. Is there any other discussion, questions? I do have a question, probably more for Banner. How was H&W to work with all this, through all this?
I can say that working with H&W has been as frustrating for Banner as it has been for the city and the city council. They are stretched with, I believe, too many projects. And I can say that we've contacted other references when they've gotten bids for other projects and found out that in other communities, they are also over a year behind in getting things completed, or they have projects coming up. We had one community we contacted and there was another project that was supposed to be done in 2 months and they hadn't started. So I think with all the ARPA funding projects that were out there, they just stretched themselves too thin and couldn't manage all the work that they took on. But it's been frustrating, just calls and calls not returned and emails not responded to, and you try and try and try to get a hold of them and push. And has not been successful. So, but at least we're very, very, very close to the end.
Yes. I think I can attest to many people on the council that we're obviously very frustrated with their timing of work, and obviously future projects that we have in the future going on here. Hopefully we won't have to deal with that issue. So, anything else from the council? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion to approve the amendment by Councilor Holland. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Helwig. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item we have is a resolution to adjust wastewater rates.
I guess, well, keeping with the sanitary sewer theme so far under new business, we have one more project related to that. So every April, the city council looks at your sanitary sewer rate. That is basically, we take your winter water average. So we take the January, February, and March, what somebody uses for water, we average that out, and that becomes one part of the component that figures your sewer bill, and then we set that bill, and that's used for the next 12 months. The other part of that is we have your water average, then we have a multiplier on that. Currently, that number is 170%. The resolution before you tonight would adjust that to be 190%, and I'll touch on that in a second. So we have the typical water sewer calculation that we do. At this point in time, we're also looking at a renovation project at that plant. Yeah, as you recall, last fall, you did award a project to about $20.1 million for renovations of the wastewater treatment plant. And that work is underway. They started a little bit last fall with some dirt work, but it will get underway in earnest this year. That project is slated to run until October of 2027. During budget sessions last year, we had a pretty healthy discussion, as well as in September last year when we were looking at setting a rate. Before we could borrow money from the state, we have been approved for a $23.1 million SRF loan with the state of South Dakota. We had to have a rate structure in place to be able to repay that money over the course of time. And so in doing that, the state said at that point in time that we needed to adjust the sewer rate by $31.25 per month per user if we were going to use the entire $23.1 million of funding that's available. And so that was part of the discussion we had. We brought to you a resolution which did that, and that was adopted by the City Council. So the way that resolution is worded right now, we would have to be at that 211% in April of 2027. Now, we are working with CCOG because the project will not have been closed out by that point in time. As I mentioned, it's going to run until October of 2027, the construction work. So we would not have closed the loan, so to speak, and start repayment. We're still going to be pulling money down at that point in time. So we are working on that to see if the full amount would need to be borrowed. We understand and been working to find other sources of income to help offset that, so we're not borrowing the $23.1 million, which I would note 20.1 is construction, about $3 million worth of engineering on that project as well. We did secure, as the council's aware, last summer it was announced we received a $5 million grant from the EDA to help with that. And so we've gone through all the paperwork to put that in place. And as we have qualifying expenses, probably early on right now, we haven't seen much. We are able to draw against that $5 million until such time as it is utilized. I think what we're looking at is that at budget time this year, we're going to be bringing you additional ideas of how we can pull that number down or not go any higher. 211% of your average is going to be a healthy amount, and it's harder to explain and harder to make that number work. We also don't anticipate or hope that we have to draw down all 23.1 million. So we're trying to figure out other avenues, and we'll be bringing some ideas to you at the next budget session to be able to address that. The rate resolution before you tonight, what that does is that would take the 170 to 190. In your memo were two different rate comparisons. The average Vermillion customer uses 581 cubic feet. We are sewer and water charged, we use the cubic feet method. What that means is that current sewer bill for that 581 cubic foot per month customer is $52.50. This rate increase before you would take it up $6.19. So that 52.56 would go to 58.75. Now there are obviously many different averages out there, and there are different sizes of meters, so there's different customer sizes, different customer service charges that are figured in there. But that's in essence what this rate resolution before you tonight is, to take it from 170 to 190. And like I said, we'll be bringing some additional ideas before you at the August and September budget to see if we can figure out other ways to either utilize more cash so we don't have to borrow as much, or potentially use other funds, perhaps some second penny funds, to help mitigate some of that increase.
Thank you, John. Is there any visitors to be heard on this? Seeing none, council for any discussion at all? Seeing none, is there any motions?
Move approval.
Motion approved by Councilor Helwig. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Lieber. Any other discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by saying nay. Motion carries. Next item we have is Helms and Associates Engineering Agreement for Design, Bidding, and Construction Administration of the Harold Davidson Field Airport Pavement Maintenance Project. Jose.
Thank you. Since the 2023 budget session, staff has presented several future projects that would occur in the city. A couple of these projects that were to be occurring at the airport. One of these was a partial parallel taxiway reconstruction, and the other one was a pavement maintenance project, which is being considered today as far as the engineering portion of it. The agreement being considered is for the design, bidding, and construction management of the pavement maintenance project at the airport. The project would perform maintenance on portions of the parallel taxiway, apron, and hangar taxiway. Projects at the airport are paid through a combination of federal, city, and state funds. This project in specific would see the rates of 95% to be paid by the feds, 2.5% being paid by the state, and the remaining 2.5% being paid by the city. The city actually does pay for everything all at once, but then gets reimbursed at the end of the project. So we would be getting 97.5% back from the state. The agreement with Helms is an hourly fee with a not to exceed amount of $40,000. It should be noted that this amount is actually the worst case scenario. The estimated cost is $33,000 for the design portion of it. Regardless, after reimbursements, the city would only be responsible for $1,000 of the design, bidding, and construction administration. Administration recommends allowing the mayor to sign the agreement for professional services for AIP number 3-46-0056-23-2024 and any other future documents related to the pavement maintenance project.
Thank you, Jose. Is there any visitors to be heard on this? Seeing none, any discussion by council at all? Councilor Lieber? No, there you are.
Well, I'm just looking, 97.5, 2.5, 2.5 is a little bit high, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's 95. It should be, it's 95. That's why I said 95. Yep.
Thank you.
Wanted to see if somebody read it. I'm glad, thank you.
Keeping you on your toes there. It's that SDSU.
Just have to be. It's great math if it works.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion? Motion approved by Councilor Price. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Cheeseman. Any other discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
She's getting a lot better at that gavel, isn't she? She's getting the hang of that thing. All right, next item we have is the agreement with the Clay Rural Water System transferring service rights.
Thank you. The property known as Munger Tract 1, 2, and 3 was annexed into the city limits back in February 17th of 2026. This property currently has one active water customer with much of the property undeveloped. The current owner of the property would like to develop residential neighborhood, including fire protection, which Clay Rural Water Systems cannot supply. While annexation can trigger transfer of electric service territory, following state statute, water service rights are protected by a federal law and cannot follow the same process. For the city of Vermillion to acquire the water rights, we must negotiate terms for the transfer or purchase of the Clay Rural Water System service area. City staff have worked closely with Clay Rural Water's staff to come to an agreement for the purchase of the service rights to this property. The agreement to transfer the service rights is attached for your review. This agreement includes a monetary payout, abandonment of the Clay Rural Water System at the city's expense, and amendments to the existing agreements. The two parties will work together to set a transfer date in the future. Clay Rural Water's manager has informed city staff that their board has approved the language in the agreement, and then our city attorney has reviewed the agreement to transfer the service rights and both amendments. All amendments and agreements with Clay Rural Water do need to also be approved by the USDA, as that's where they get their funding from. The utility committee met with staff back in November of 2025 to kind of give staff some guidance on the direction to take in the negotiations. As I said, the agreement includes a payout as well as amendments to the two existing interconnection agreements, that the city currently has with Clay Rural Water Systems. These amendments will change the rate at which the water is sold to Clay Rural Water, moving from a flat fee to a tiered rate. This rate change has a term of 10 years before reverting back to the original agreed upon rate. It should be noted that staff, at the direction of the committee, did seek to have a 5-year term with an option to extend an additional 5 years. That was not agreed to by Clay Rural Water, so we wanted that to try to ensure that Clay Rural Water would still come to the table, I guess, with good faith regarding service territory rights as the city continues to grow into the future. A one-time purchase fee for the existing customer has been agreed to at a cost of $2,400. This cost was not budgeted for, however, there are funds available to cover this expense. The amended water rate will average roughly of $4,500 in lost revenue annually based on the past 4 years of water sales to rural water. And it is anticipated that staff can perform the work to abandon the infrastructure at the property line for pretty minimal cost. With that, administration asks council to consider the attached agreement to transfer service rights and the amendments to the existing interconnection agreements.
Thank you, Shane. Is there any visitors to be heard on this? Seeing none, council for any discussion? Motion, Councilor Toller?
Shane, what kind of infrastructure does this mean we're gonna have to change over, or are we just simply using all their infrastructure and just gonna pay them off?
So there's not really any infrastructure in place that would work for us. So they have a 3-inch line that kind of stubs across, and then from there it just goes to a service drop that feeds the one house kind of back on the end of the property. All of that would be obsolete. So I think what we would probably end up doing is they would continue to serve that customer until we have infrastructure out there and in place to be able to serve the entire property. So what we need to do is just essentially at the property line when that time comes is just cut and cap the pipe, and then we'll put all new service system in there.
What does that include? Like, where are we connecting that to the city then?
So that would have to, so we're looking at a pretty serious extension. It's gonna come all the way from Polaris, get across the bypass, run up Highway 19, come across, I'm not sure what side we'd be on. Right now, the water main is on the east side of Highway 19, so we'd have to get up, cross Highway 50, on Highway 19, cross Highway 19 to get into the development.
So pretty extensive.
Pretty
project at some
substantial.
point.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Any motions? Any other motions? Motion to, motion to approve? Motion to approve by Councilor Lieber, second by Councilor Helwig. Any other discussion on this? Go ahead, Councilor Cheeseman.
So Shane, what about sewer?
So right now, we're the only sewer provider in the area, so we do not have any infrastructure in place to serve that. The current plan for the development, if it holds true, it's large enough lots that septic systems would probably be what they would put out there. That doesn't mean the development and the developer's agreement is looking at ways to, hey, let's build this so that we have the ability to put sewer in somewhere down the road. But right now, we are not putting plans in place to serve that area with sewer.
Okay.
So just to familiarize myself, so very much similar to the Overdrive area, those houses there, I
Yeah.
believe are set up the same way?
Yep, so the city, it's 22,000 square foot, I think, in order to have a septic system, and so they would have to be larger than that, which these ones are quite a bit larger than that, so, the lots, but similar to Overdrive, yes.
Any other discussion? There is a motion to approve on the table. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by saying nay. Motion carries. Next item we have is a memorandum of understanding with the Clay Union Electric regarding electric service territory swap. I believe John or Shane?
Thank you. I'll take it. The property described as Lot 1, Block 2, Madison Park Addition was located north of Roosevelt Street and east of Norbeck. This property is owned by GA Han Development LLC. They were recently awarded a tax credit and are planning to develop the property with 34 housing units, similar to the existing Madison Park apartments on the south side of Roosevelt. The north 38 feet of this lot is in Clay Union Electric Service territory, and the owner of the property has requested the city provide electric services to 100% of the new development. As this property is already within city limits, state statute does not have a process to transfer the electric service to our territories. So city has worked with Clay Union staff and negotiated what would it take to get the service rights to this property. Staff, working with Clay Union, came with a proposal to swap electric service territories. The city would receive the north 138 feet of Lot 1, Block 2, Madison Park Addition. In return, service territory would be redrawn in Lot 1, Albers subdivision. This is currently the Cypress Rail property. This Auburn subdivision located outside of city limits, however, the service territory does follow an existing property line, and a building is currently situated over that property line. So half the building essentially in our service territory, half of it in their service territory. They do serve that building, and so we would redraw the line to fully encompass that building into their service territory. Clay Union staff did present this proposed territory swap to their board on their March 27th meeting, and were given approval to move forward with the territory swap. If approved tonight, this will go back to Clay Union to officially approved by their board, and following that, the territory transfer would be filed with the Public Utilities Commission. This agreement does include the removal of any lost revenue payments into the future on any of the transferred territories. With that, administration recommends approval of the memorandum of understanding between the City of Vermillion and Clay Union Electric.
Thank you, Shane. Is there any visitors to be heard on this topic? Seeing none, council for any discussion? I would note there is a representative from Clay Union in the audience if you do have any questions. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Councilor Holland, second by Councilor Murrah. Any other discussion on this? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying nay. Motion carries. Next item we have is city manager's report.
Did you want to do the proclamation?
Do you want me to do the proclamation before his report or after? We'll do it before. Okay. Change it up on you, Madam Mayor. Sorry.
Okay. Recognizing the first Vermillion High School Girls State Wrestling Champion. Whereas the City of Vermillion wishes to honor and recognize Blair Merkwan on winning the first ever South Dakota Girls Wrestling Championship for Vermillion High School. And whereas the commitment required for student athletes to be a part of a sports team includes meeting required grade and attendance requirements, in addition to attending daily practices and scheduled competition events. And whereas on February 26, 2026, the Vermillion High School wrestlers competed in the state championship at the Denny Sanford Premier Center in Sioux Falls. And whereas in 2024, Blair Merkwan made history as the first girl from Vermillion High School to qualify for the South Dakota State Wrestling Tournament. And whereas in 2025, Blair Merkwan again made history as the first girl from Vermillion High School to place at the South Dakota State Wrestling Tournament. And whereas in 2026, Blair Merkwan battled her way through a loaded bracket at the South Dakota State Wrestling Tournament. And whereas Blair Merkwan defeated the previously unbeaten #1 ranked wrestler from Harrisburg, South Dakota, 8-7 in the final period of her semifinals match. And whereas Blair Merkwan defeated the #2 ranked wrestler from Lemon, South Dakota, 1-0 in the championship match to claim the 170-pound weight class state title. And whereas Blair Merkwan has continually paved the way for Vermillion teenager wrestling and for girls wrestling in the Vermillion community. Now, therefore, we, the governing body of the City of Vermillion, South Dakota, for and on behalf of its citizens, do hereby wish to recognize and extend congratulations to Blair Merkwan as the first girl to win a South Dakota State Championship title from Vermillion High School, dated at Vermillion, South Dakota, this 6th day of April 2026.
Blair, if you want to come up and we'll give you your proclamation here. Dad, do you want to do a photo? What? Do you want to take a have her take a photo with all of us as well? Okay. We apologize that we changed the meeting time to 6 p.m. on you, and I know you realized you thought it was at 7, so glad you could make it. I gotta wait for John for the city manager's report.
Can't do it without it.
Now we'll do the city manager's report.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of upcoming meetings before the next city council meeting on Monday, April 20th. This Wednesday, April 8th, the city's Historic Preservation Commission will be meeting at 9 a.m. in the Powell Conference Room here in the second floor of City Hall. And the library board meets at 6 p.m. in the library's Kozak Room on Wednesday, April 15th. This weekend only, April 11th and 12th, we will have an online 10% off sale for Prentice Plunge passes. It's something we've done the last couple of years. So the Prentice Plunge Discount Pass event is this weekend. You can do that through the city's website on the Park and Recreation page. And then just a note, we have some terms expiring on both our Human Relations Commission as well as the Library Board. These both expire in May. We have 3 terms on the Human Relations Commission. One is for a post-secondary student. That is a 1-year term. The other terms are for 3 years. And then the library terms are also for 3 years. Expression of interest forms are for either one of those 2 boards or commissions are due 5 p.m. Thursday, April 23rd. We anticipate the city council will make appointments at your meeting on May 4th. And we have that information available on the city's website. That's all that I have.
Thank you. Thank you, John. We do have an item for executive session. If there's a motion to move into executive session. Motion by Councilor Murr, is there a second? Second by Councilor Cheeseman. We'll take a brief recess before executive session for everybody to vacate except for council and necessity staff for that. So thank you. Sorry.